TV, as we are hosting tonight's show for the Center of Empowerment. We're facilitating. We're a little early tonight because I just wanted to go ahead and come on. Truthfully, to be very candid with you, I'm not 100% tonight, but that's okay. I'm showing up no matter what. And I wanted to make sure that I was here. So thank you. Thank you. Some of you will be tuning in at 7:30, the actual time that we announced the live. And some of you will be seeing us while we're live. What we want to ask you to do is to remember subscribe, like, and share. Subscribe, like, and share. If what we're doing here is uplifting your spirit, encouraging your heart, giving you tools, practicality tools that transform, not only heal, but transforms your life. That's what we're here for. And we'd have a lot of fun while we do it as well. So thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Before we get started, you know what we're going to do? That's right. We're going to take an intentional breath. So I'm going to ask you to pause, make sure your feet is planted. Yeah, we want to make sure your feet is planted on the ground before you. So that helps grind you. You're going to put your hands in your lap. And so I'm just right now taking a few breaths, quick through my mouth. They're kind of like fire breaths, but I'm inhaling through my nose, exhale. And what that does is kind of get your the oxygen and get the energy flowing. If you've had a long day, if you're coming in from a drive, if you're coming in from an exhausting experience today, we want to pause and bring you into this moment and cause you to be still. Yes. And just get present to your breath. And now just allow yourself in this moment to just breathe. Yeah, just breathe. Get present with your breath. Just get present to your inhale and your exhale. Just notice your breath. Notice the gift of life. Now take a deep inhale. It is that breath that reminds us whom's and who we are. You cannot pause and be present with your gift. That's you. You are the very essence of God, the creator of all life in the earth. Yeah, stretch it out. Divinely created to create divinely. And sometimes when you hear that, you may think that that means there's some type of work, something extra that you must do. And I'm submitting to you tonight. Sometimes it's just being still and pausing. That's an activity. Taking the step of calmness and centering is an activity. Stillness is not being idle, is not being aware, but it's the activity of awareness, of awakeness, of creation. The breath, yes. Come on, take a deep inhale. And on the count of 4, you're going to exhale. 2, 3, 4, and exhale. Yeah, stretch it out, stretch it out, stretch it out, stretch it out. Inhale. And on the count of 6, we're going to exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 6 and exhale through the mouth. Yes. Okay, yeah. Move those shoulders. You're not no junk. You are enough. Just as you are, you're enough. You may have areas in your life you want to improve, you want to enhance, you want to fortify, you want to be better, but know that where you are is enough. You are enough of I am to be the full embodiment of who you've been created to be. The creator of all life is so vast, so powerful that he created me, you, he, them. And when I say that, what I mean is we are uniquely different, distinct. Our breath calls us family. But our aesthetics, the outside, this clay, the house that we live in, may be different. But the human family, I asked the question, what makes us human? And really no one really answered. And I'm gonna ask you tonight, what makes us family? No, what makes us human? Is it breath? Is it kindness? Is it consideration? Is it remembering your brother and your sister? And I'm not just talking genetics, I'm talking other human beings on the planet. What makes us human? I'm asking you to just sit with that. What makes us human? I'm not going to give you an answer to that. There's a lot of thoughts around it, but I want you to sit with what makes you human, what makes me human, what makes us human. And then we are mind, body, and spirit. And we say that it needs to be in alignment to experience the fullness, fulfillment, full and filled of purpose. So then, why are we here? And what are you called to be and do? Be and then do. Not do and be, but be. Who are you called to be? Why are you afraid to be still? Tonight's topic for the grief support online is around how we support those that we love, our friends and loved ones that have experienced grief and seem to be in the throes of grief and loss. So you have grief that's filled with the loss of something, right? So it can be the loss of life, and we're talking about loss of life, and it can be loss of relationship. It can be loss of career. It can be loss of living situation. And all of these things have a career. I think I said that. A belief system, loss of a belief system. You have lived in a belief system for a while, for all of your life, and it's been ripped apart, and you've been called, right, to experience something different. But there is an attachment, right, a longing, an experience that you have now lost. Excuse me. And you may have a little grieving process and a disappointment, the cycle of grief. You know, we talk about that if you look at some of our previous grief support line shows and support groups that is in the grief support. We list and we talk about the cycles of grief, but that's not what I'm going to do tonight. Is talk about the cycles of grief. What I want to talk about is how do we support our loved ones and our friends? How do we support ourselves in grief and loss? How do we have the conversation? How do we navigate the feelings? And, you know, I say navigate the feelings as if it's something you go through to get to the other side. And what I mean by navigate the feelings is pretty much that breathing exercise that I just kind of did with you guys a little differently. And that is being able to sit with the feeling. I was been working with a client that I've been kind of working with over a few months that's been dealing with grief and loss of her husband. And she's been having a difficult time releasing or feeling like he left her and left her holding the bag. And then also having the conversation around she's responsible for him leaving the way he left because of the health conditions and the stress and et cetera that existed. And so it really prompted me to have this conversation with you guys tonight. And I thought about my own experiences that I have had with feeling responsible for whether a person had an extended time on earth or not. And what I mean by that, could I have done something to cause them to be here longer, to live longer? Was there something in my power to do that could have done that? And it took me several years before I got to the place of recognizing there was absolutely nothing I could do. I did all that I could do. I loved, I took care of, I provided, I gave my heart to, and there was nothing else that I could do. But because we have been conditioned to believe that our love, and I'm not saying that our love cannot sustain and heal, I'm not saying that, but we've been conditioned to believe there's something that we can do to either extend life in another or and etc. We've seen too many cases and situations where people have gone through horrific circumstances and situations and they still live, right? And they heal, they transform their lives. And we've seen situations where that hasn't happened. We've just heard another horrific story of parents who sent their kids to school only for their children not to return home. They sent them to what they thought was a safe space for their child to get an education, for them not to return home because of another child that was in crisis, mentally unstable. And apparently, whatever the dynamics that was going on, those that was caring for that child was not able to provide what was needed so that that child would not now take another life. So how do we have those conversations? How do we have the conversations around with loved ones who have lost loved ones to suicide? How do we have that conversation? Sudden deaths, car crash. I think we just didn't, I know there was just a celebration or memorial of a situation here in California where there was a car accident where a young lady had driven through a light and several lives was lost here in Southern California. And they just did a memorial and everyone was speaking about how the person that perpetrated the crime had not gone through the due process or had not been convicted or whatever the expectation around that is. So how do we have that conversation? Because lives were lost instantly, children. Someone who was out to take care of business and never returned home. And it wasn't expected. So how do we have that conversation? Listen, one thing I know for certain, because I've been there, we many times don't want to hear, people don't want to hear a lot of, God got you and it's going to be okay. And, sometimes those are not the appropriate words in that moment. And oftentimes, because we've been conditioned and we know, and it's not a matter of whether we believe and or trust God, but or believe in a power greater than ourselves. But sometimes in those moments, that is not the soothing, healing, transforming, comforting words that's needed. So how do we have the conversations with those that are suffering in grief and loss? How do we do that? It's important to create spaces. We call our space here a healthy, safe, brave space. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Subscribe, like, and share. We call our space healthy, safe, brave space. And the reason we call our spaces that is because we like to offer our space to everyone. First and foremost, without judgment. That's the first and foremost thing. Offering a healthy space, healthy, meaning without judgment. So I'm not sitting here, and those that come on the platform is not coming to judge you where you need to be or should be. But we want you to know that in this space, wherever you are, however you're feeling, good, bad, or indifferent, angry, frustrated, mad at God, mad at the system, mad at the perpetrators that took your loved one's life, mad and disappointed with how things didn't turn out the way they turned out, mad for being fired, mad at losing your job, mad at, life is just not just whatever that is. This is a healthy space, a non-judgmental space. And then it's safe. It's safe and gives you an opportunity to know that if you choose to expose your feelings and emotion, it's safe here. It's healthy because we don't judge. And then it's safe because we give you the opportunity to expose your emotions and your feelings. Brave because we offer you the opportunity to bravely and boldly, regardless to your walk of life, regardless to your spiritual belief, your religious beliefs, to bravely and boldly and authentically say, this is where I am and this is how I'm feeling. So what's the beautiful thing about feelings is what? They change. Now, sometimes feelings linger longer and we hang out in them longer because of how we've been conditioned to think about our feelings and how we have been conditioned to think about death. Sometimes it's hard to even talk about death or loss, change, sudden change, when you've built your life around stability, or the expectation of stability or pattern that is to produce a certain result. And it doesn't. So we have a healthy, safe, brave space to talk about authentically, candidly, where you are. So how do we have the conversation? How do you have a conversation with someone if you've never even experienced what they're feeling? If you've never experienced the frustration, the anger, the fear, the sadness of the emotions. Most of us have, but if you haven't, it could be around a specific area that you haven't had the experience, but you have had the experiences with fear, frustration, anger, a sadness, disappointment, a loss of words, guilt. Is there something I could have did differently? How do you have that conversation? I want you to put it in the chat. When you listen to this broadcast, feel free to put your comments in the chat. We want to hear from you. So definitely put your comments in the chat. I will be checking them and responding and reply. If you look at some of the other ones, you see that I do come back, I check and reply. So really, one of the main things I have learned in counseling, as a counselor, in counseling, seeking counsel, therapy, coaching, people do not want to hear, I know how you feel, I've been there, done that. They don't make a person feel better. They don't want to hear, because the feeling is you don't know what I feel, because what I'm going through is different. My experience is different. I don't want to hear that okay, you're going to get over it. No, you don't want to do that. But say the person's name. Say the person's name. Acknowledge the person. I acknowledge you on my show tonight. I acknowledge you in the support group tonight. I acknowledge you as a human being, having a human experience that is challenging you at your core, in your soul and in your spirit. And I want you to know that where you are is okay. Ask questions. Ask questions. Give them the opportunity. Sometime in my counseling sessions, the truth of the matter is I give a person an opportunity to just get it out. I don't say much of anything sometimes, because I understand and recognize in that moment, that in that timing, they need to just get it out. And so sometimes it does feel like a vomiting session, okay, of just getting it all out. And you don't need to feel guilty about that. A person doesn't need to feel guilty about the emotions of grief, sadness, frustration, anger, and disappointment, and neither do we need to be, or they need to be told. But who are you to say that, this, and the other? They just need the opportunity to get it out. And as you go through that process of allowing the space for your friend and loved one, just to express how they feel, to cry, to question God, to question self, to question the system, to question whatever's going on and why. Give them the space to do that without saying, "Who are you to do that?" You don't have a right to question God. People don't need to hear that in that moment. I'm here to tell you that is not comforting in that moment, be it true or not true. Okay, that's not what is needed in the healing process. All righty. So, and then what you want to do is, after you have listened intently, not listening with the intent to answer or give a solution, but listen and then reflect back what they have said. Acknowledge what they have. Acknowledge the fact. I hear you say that you're angry. You're angry with God. You're angry with the person that hurt your family. I'm angry with the person that left. I'm disappointed that they felt that they couldn't come to me. Give yourself, reflect back the words that they have shared with you. Reflect back, sound back. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And by all means, put your name in the chat if you're tuning in live with me right now. If you're tuning in live, let me know where you're listening in from. So you want to reflect. So you want to acknowledge who the person is, say their name, call them. There's nothing like the sound of your name. Iris, John, Marisha, I hear you. I just made all those names up, except for Iris. All righty. The next thing we want to talk about is, as you say the person's name, you ask their questions, you reflect back what they're saying, and ask them, do they know, or do they think they know? What do they need right now? And many times what a person will say is, I just need an ear. I just need a shoulder. I just need someone to listen to me and not judge me. I'm not looking for you to give me answers. Some will say, I already know that. I got that. I just need a safe space to hear me. Sometimes some will say, I don't have anything to say. Just be with me. Can you just sit with someone? Are you able to settle yourself enough and be comfortable enough to just sit, pause with your friend and loved one? Hold them. Not say, okay, well, let's have prayer. But just sit, pause, hold them, take them by the hand. Sit. Sometimes that's all that's needed. Are you okay? Or do you feel like there's something else you need to do? Something else you need to say? You're called to pray and intercede and lift the spirit and bind it. No, that's not what's needed in that moment. But we want to have caring communication. Understanding communication that gives the opportunity to just be. So when we learn how to support those that is grieving, one of the things that we do is, as I've said, healthy, non-judgmental, safe, giving them an opportunity to express where they are without judgment, brave, giving space for authentic, bold expression of where they are. And it may come out in many different ways. It may surprise you, and it's okay. You've got to be okay that my friend, my loved one, even yourself, is in this space right now, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're less than. It doesn't mean that you don't love God. It doesn't mean that you don't love the person that left. It doesn't mean that you don't love those that you are connected to. It doesn't mean any of that. It means right now, this is where I am, and this is what I'm feeling. And sometimes what happens is it opens the door to community. And as you listen, ask the questions, you say their name, you acknowledge, and you ask the questions. Now you know where the person is and what's coming up, and you know how to say and what to say. I just encourage you to be okay with just being with a person, being with yourself, being quiet, not giving solutions. Be okay with not sharing and telling someone that they need to pray, that they don't have a right to question. That's not even from God, quite frankly. That's a whole nother mindset, but we'll deal with that in another conversation. All righty. And just to be okay where you are and with you, what you are with your loved ones and your friends. All righty. It is not our job to change the feeling. It is our responsibility to be with it and allow the process, because when we don't allow our process of going through the feelings and the emotions, and we just kind of cover it up and camouflage it with words and prayers that we really don't feel, or emotions that give us brief, episodes of relief, it traps in our body, and that grief and loss lives in our body, and it's causing dis-ease. It's causing chronic high blood pressure. It's causing inflammation. It's causing migraine headaches. It's causing, so inflammation, that's the joint pain. It's causing insomnia, the inability to sleep. It's causing excessive eating, excessive drinking, binge TV watching. It's creating the environment for a cesspool of unhealthy behavior. But when we allow ourselves just to be and allow our loved ones to be, we allow that energy to process, and it will process and go through and it will go through us, and it will do what it needs to do so we can go through the next phase of grief and loss, of acceptance and acknowledging that we're not responsible, although many times we feel like we're responsible for another person's ability to live or die. I hope you heard something that lifted your spirits. I hope you don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Leave your comments below and let me know what you got out of today. Of course, again, this is hosted by Center of Empowerment. I didn't put my banner up. I just kind of got going. I wanted to make sure that I came on and gave everybody, here we go. There we go. An opportunity to hear us tonight. Keep me in your thoughts. Keep me lifted up as well. Your thoughts, your warm thoughts and prayers. I'm fine. But, sometimes when we are in the business of supporting and helping others, we don't take the time, or we have to give ourselves that clearing, or we think we have to stay on the treadmill, or when I say that, I mean, we don't have to tell the truth about how and what we're feeling. And so I'm telling you, today wasn't 100% day for Iris. It wasn't my 100% day at all, but I'm here. And I'm grateful, and the ability to come on here and share with you actually is healing, even for me. All righty. So I appreciate that. If you like what you hear, you saw our commercials, you see what we're about, please go to www.coinpm.org. Keep us going, our services. This Sunday is the last day to apply for our OMB grant. So make sure that you go. We have been receiving applications for the OMB grant, and our mentees that we're supporting in Ghana. Things are happening. We'll give you an update and reports, and make sure that we have your emails. So if you want to get updates and reports of what we're doing, make sure we have your emails. Again, thank you for joining Center of Empowerment, where we impact the 4 pillars of life. We build bridges of hope beyond solutions for families in transition. And so that simply means we are a support system to shift and change the trajectory of our lives. We know we are the answer to our ancestors' prayers. So whatever generation patterns and pathologies that has persisted, patterns that has persisted in our families, we are the conduit to transform that and move us to the next level. Blessings, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us. Let me partner with you as you walk through this next chapter of your life. Let us unpack the blocks, the blind spots together and get to the next level. Your divine purpose in this season. Let's help you shed the weight that distracts from you living in fulfillment. Meet me in my healing space. Confirm with